That was constantly brought up, but diminished because it came from the black members that were on the board. And when I say diminished, Mary, it was constantly, uh, the topic constantly was, we need to have an administrator. We need to have a secretary. When Miss Emma is sitting right there, she cannot even be a part of our meetings.
Well,
So-
And another point I wanted to add
are you Mr. Richardson?
yes, I'm Mr. Richardson. The other point I wanted to add is that I'm the only person on the board with lived experience, with interactions with the police. And when I try to voice my opinion, along with Ivan, along with a few other members that were siding with us, like the ones that you see standing here, it was almost like like she said, they diminished our voice to the point where it was insignificant what we were saying. And even to this day, right now, we're from the community. Each one of us live in the community. We see these interactions on a regular basis, and our voices are being diminished and being silenced. While the leadership or the so-called leadership that they're trying to assert themselves as leadership on the board, they're not from the community. They don't live in our communities. The majority of those complaints that come in, they're from black and brown communities. These people that are inserting themselves in these power positions on the board, they're not from the community.
And I'm sorry to have missed the beginning of this. So who are you saying is diminishing your voice? Chair?
The leadership, yes, the leadership of the CRB.
And anyone?
Yes.
So Anne-Marie in particular, or is it
Anne-Marie is the acting chair. She is not the chair. She is the acting chair.
And how? I'm sorry, how exactly is she diminishing your input, your perspective?
Well, case in point, we took a vote on the administrative position, and everyone knows immediately prior to taking a vote, there is a question and answer session. It doesn't matter whether we've discussed this, the credentials of the administrator in prior meetings. That doesn't matter. What matters is that if someone has a question or wants clarity on any issue that's going to be voted on, they need to be heard. That particular meeting, JO was shut down. I was not able to get onto the meeting and share my voice, but I did communicate in the chat. It was ignored as we're taking the vote, and that's it. Now, I've been on the board for almost 4 years. The most conversation on that board is making sure we can get an administrator. When Miss Emma is sitting right there, she's the originator, and she has also shown that she has experience in doing exactly what this administrator was hired for. So,
I mean, one of the main things that they were looking for was somebody to take minutes and documentation of all the cases that are up there, as things go on. Emma made clear she wasn't going to do any minutes. So how could she be the administrator?
how is she going to be, her position, the originator of the CRB, traveled to make sure that this could happen, be diminished to taking minutes? I want you to answer that question for me, Mary.
Well, what is the confusion? I mean, I know I saw the description on the job when the job sheet was pointed to. By all the
This is the confusion. The confusion is this. Emma wants to put a team together because she's an expert in this field, more expert than any one of us sitting at the table. She's an expert in this field. She investigated a lot of CRBs across the country. So she knows what team needs to be in play in order to be adequate in supporting the needs of the CRB. What they did is when she put forth her proposal, they dissected her proposal and made puppet positions to make what she was proposing be insignificant. And that's the issue that we're having, because they took her proposal, chopped it and sliced it, and then put started saying, "Oh, this position here, this position here." How are you hiring How are you hiring an administrator for the CRB when you're not even looking at the first proposal that was put forward by Emma Jones as far as the team she needs to be successful at doing her job?
So I've seen different things that Emma has proposed.
Right.
Which one are you talking about?
The proposal for the administrator, like what the role for the administrator needs to be on the CRB. The role, the duties that the administrator needs to have. We need an investigator. That was part of her proposal. Part of her proposal was to get an investigator. When she wanted to get an investigator, that was shot down. She wanted to get a lawyer for the Civilian Review Board. That was shot down. And this is what I mean by her dissected and new proposals for to take away the insignificance of what she proposed in the beginning.
Right. I mean, they are supposed to put out an RFP for an investigator. And that's supposed to go through her. I mean, those are three separate positions.
They made them three separate positions.
Well, how would Emma interact with that? I mean,
She wouldn't do the
positions.
she wouldn't do the three positions, but she would orchestrate the hiring of those positions because she knew exactly what was needed for each position.
Absolutely.
And that's the position she need, the expert position she should be in.
She wanted to do the hiring?
Not the hiring, but she wanted to do the actual implementing who these people are.
Right.
Who's coming to the table because
Absolutely.
she's the expert at this.
She's parking here. Sorry about that, man.
She's parking.
Man,
I'm
she's
sorry,
about
ma'am.
to park. Sorry about that.
You want to go around? I'll help you.
And Emma's here. And if I can chime in too. So when you look at this from a broad perspective, when you have someone who has a lot of credentials and expertise, they come with a wealth of knowledge. And there seemed to have been like a huge miscommunication when Emma's approach was like, "Hey, I think we need to gear up or put this CRB in its right position, where it's not as it has this independence and structure." And when it come down with the city's involvement, at this point, it seemed like the city was trying to get themselves in the middle of certain decisions, that it wasn't for the best interest of the CRB.
Oh,
right?
look at
Everybody's
you.
not going to have the same approval on certain assignments, but in this particular matter, there was a shift. And with that shift, it seemed as though he was being pushed to the side. And that kind of is what happened as an outcome.
I wonder now, as Miss Emma has just arrived, I wonder if you could, I'm with the Independent, name's Tom, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about why are you here today and what is it that you're calling for?
Well,
what
she
you
is
want to-
here, and I asked her to be here.
What-
Like, I'm the one that called this on behalf of my CRB members who are being disrespected, and I asked her to come.
I don't know if there's anything in particular you want to add about your presence here or what you'd like to say about your current work at the CRB and what you'd like to go through.
It's just incredible that the CRB members have pulled together a group of people. I don't know, I got a call from Ida, like she said, last night, and I had no idea that this was going to happen. But God, I am so moved by this whole situation that I literally almost stayed up all night last night crying and weeping. And then when I got a call from jail this morning, I cried some more because I couldn't believe it. And I just want to say for myself, like, I don't want to take away from what the people were called here to do, but I want to say personally, for myself, as the person who orchestrated, who initiated, who designed, who put together, and who won with the people in this community a citizen review board designed to serve and protect the people who had become accustomed to being brutalized and murdered and falsely arrested by the police. And what has happened to that organization is that it's been taken over by people whom I had never seen during the 20-some years of struggle for the CRB. That's incredible for me. And what it did was it reminded me of, the red people who were on this land, and the people came and took it over who had no concept of what was happening in that land before they took it over. And it also, you gotta hear my story, because you asked me to tell you. And from my heart, I'm telling you, because my heart has been bleeding for the last few years that I have observed behind the curtains what was happening to CRB. It tore me apart because it's not just my family, but it's so many other families that I came in contact with, and all of the people who struggled with me for years to make sure that this happened, and to see it come down to where it is now is an abomination. And
Go ahead. Want to keep talking?
no, I'll stop. It's for the brothers, most especially, that I see. We get brutalized too, but I'm concerned that when I stood here in April of 1997, these are the grounds that I stood on when my son was brutally gunned down and murdered by an East Haven police officer as the kid sat in a car, boxed in and unarmed. And with that, the officer shot him. He said so many times that he couldn't remember how many times he shot him. He just kept shooting because, according to him, my son gave him a defined go-to-hell look when he shot him in his heart the first time. And with that, he kept shooting him until he noticed that he was slumped to the right. Malik had 20-some bullet holes in his body. God, what do you think this kid was? An animal? You wouldn't shoot an animal like that.
And
And
these
so-
are the people
That
are in our community.
That we are talking about, that this board come forward
And
to
supposed to
protect
serve and protect.
and serve
Absolutely.
them.
And
And
Absolutely.
what you're doing is what they're doing, I observe, is to watch the police come in and tell them and instruct them, and then the leadership is telling them to go down to the IA and take a look at the video from some of the people who are traumatized. Especially the African people on the board are traumatized when they even pass the police department, not even to think about going into the police department and doing research. Well, that's why I fought like a dog to get an investigator. I put together the most competent CRB in this country. And by the way, and I'm going to shut up when I say this, by the way, I counted 34 boxes in my middle room on James Street. And you're welcome to come in of documentation of my traveling across the country and throughout this land, researching and studying and looking at the review boards, those that existed, which was very few at that time, and put together a model proposal, which we really rallied and got the Board of Aldermen to finally enact. And with that, you mean to tell me we come down to this? They're
Absolutely.
criticizing me and wanting to make me a glorified secretary. They want me to take notes. That's all I can do. Take notes and make phone calls for them. Woo! What's incredible?
I know you've heard this before, that you were asked to do certain things, you never did them. One of them being, one of the things, there's some things missing on the CRB, namely that this wasn't in the original, it wasn't clear maybe. Any stated by the police chief himself, and the CRB is boxed out from looking at them. I mean, that's something that has to be amended if there's a-
No.
No, we didn't know
They-
that we were boxed out. If leadership knew that and made an
They
agreement with
did.
the police department, the
the
CRB
problem.
board members did not know that.
Exactly.
No,
Now,
no,
had
no,
we
no.
known that, then there we would have had to take another step.
You mean
How
some
can
of the
we be-
CRB board members didn't know?
The black members of the CRB that are standing here today did not know that.
No, I think other members. when it
Other
first came
members
up,
may have.
You know, and they said immediately, it was a huge hole in the CRB. To actually, change it, you have to amend the ordinance, basically. So it's kind of like one of these things that's been on an agenda, I guess. But I've never seen a split on the board taking issue with that. I mean, I think it was clear from the beginning that they didn't agree with it.
The cops murdered Malik. They murdered Malik. He's not here to speak. They try to murder me. They try to murder me. The New Haven Police Department tried to murder me. And because he's not here to speak, I'm going to speak for him, and I'm going to speak for everybody else that can't speak. That's my purpose on the board. And I want to say this openly. I was about to quit the board because how they treated me on the board and how I was marginalized on the board. But something made me, when Iva put this press conference together, something told me, it hit me in the heart. I said, I'm not going to quit because it's too many people
Thank you.
that need my voice.
God.
My voice represents the community. I'm the only person on the board that's from the community that got shot by the police, that had these interactions. I'm the only one on the board. And for that reason alone, I'm not quitting the board. They're going to have to remove me from the board. I'm not going nowhere.
So going back, I mean, it's been going on for a couple of years now. All these cases that came before it. A lot of people, I mean, the board itself voted many times to have a deep dive into these cases and took issue with what the police did.
Now, all of them, I can tell you some cases that they didn't have a deep dive into. I would tell you a case when they went inside somebody's house wrongfully in the Kensington, Dwight area. They went into the house wrongfully. The police chased these juveniles out of their house, slammed them on the ground and roughed them up. This stuff is documented and recorded.
Right.
Arrested these youth and said, oh, you're being arrested because you ran from us. They went to the wrong house. They went to the wrong house.
I remember
It was
that case.
it was board members
No
on the board.
accountability.
There was board members on the board saying, oh, these are big kids, so I understand why the police roughed them up. They're supposed to be roughed up because these are bigger, these are kind of big kids. This is an example of how when you're not from the community, you say stuff like that. It's people on the board, it's board members on the board that say, oh, I'm pro-police. Like they don't understand the purpose of the civilian review board. The purpose of the civilian review board is so the civilians, the community can have a voice about what's happening with these police interactions. Not so board members can align themselves with the police and say, hey, we're going to create a board that's friendly with the police. And I'm not, like, again, I'm not targeting the police. I'm not saying, hey, we got to gun the police down and we got to, treat them horribly. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we have a board that represents the community, that gives the community a voice, that advocate against the wrongdoings that they're bringing to the table. We didn't trust the civilian review board to do that. Because, we didn't trust the Internal Affairs Board to do that, because if we trusted the Internal Affairs Board to do it, we wouldn't have a civilian review board. We know the internal affairs, the dynamics that exist is cops looking after police. Police looking after police. That's why the civilian review board is even initiated, because the community was tired of that outcome. So now, for us to replicate that with the civilian review board is disrespectful and disheartening to the community.
I know you said, I'm sorry, let me ask you. I know you said that you were intimidated essentially to go to the police department. That was, and so you've never been there.
I've never been there to look at the IA reports, but every comment, everything that I've invested, all of my opinions I gave to the CRB have been credible because I have lived experience. I have lived experience. And when I bring an issue up like that, it's like the board is so disconnected with the community, they don't even understand the significance of somebody that have suffered mental trauma. I've cried at night. I thought about committing suicide. They don't know like the trauma that I went through with going to trial, having to defend myself for these allegations that were against me when the cops almost murdered me. They don't know none of that stuff. And then the board members, the leadership on the board are making it a point saying, hey, because you didn't go to the police department and view this stuff, what you're bringing forth is insignificant. I have lived experience.
Well, for a specific case, I mean, the board itself has taken issue with the police decisions and made recommendations. I mean, the police chief, just with 4 meetings in a row, went through the entire list of things that disagreed with the findings. He's also offered to, find another place where you could go and look at these documents. So has that occurred at this point?
It didn't occur yet.
It hasn't
hasn't
occurred,
occurred.
and it looks like it's going to be later on, maybe somewhere in October or something like that. However, we're sitting here, we're reviewing these cases. I have been down to IA. I have reviewed these cases. I am a civilian. I am not an investigator. You can look at the videos. You can determine for yourself what is right and what is wrong. However, I don't believe that we are serving the community appropriately by just my view. I believe that we need an investigator for any case that we bring up that needs to be reviewed, that it needs to be seen by an investigator. The police department has their best investigators. Other companies that are just like that, or corporations, have their investigators. We need to have one too. We need to support our community better. Right now, it's not being supported the way it needs to be.
So you want an investigator for specific cases, but not all the cases?
If we review a case and we see that we need to further look into it, we definitely do need an investigator. That's the reason why Miss Emma said she would be the person who would look into finding an investigator that has a community mind.
All right. I mean, I know you voted to put out an RFP for an investigator on an on-call basis, also an attorney basis.
We voted for that. There's an RFP. Do you know that there's an RFP
It's
out
not
there?
out
No?
there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not out there. Why? Why is it not out there?
It's supposed to come from
Okay.
Corporation Council.
Absolutely, absolutely. So these are the things that we're talking about. You've been at the meetings. You know that we've been talking about this for years.
Mm-hmm.
Why hasn't the case reviews been more important than an administrator? This is where we're losing the community. We are supposed to be serving the community, and that has not happened. And it's been almost 4 years.
And it's an administrator who might understand who is very connected with the board, with someone from outside of the community and who is
Well, actually, she's right here.
Hi.
She lives in Hampton.
I don't know how wonderful it is to meet you. I don't know who you are, never seen you, you never had any connection or
Served on the
anything.
CRB
Where?
in 2011 and 2012 in the city of New Haven before it was disbanded.
That was not a civilian review board.
Puppet board.
That was a puppet board.
And
that's why it was
That's what
disbanded.
we're trying to stop from happening again.
See,
Right.
that
Another
was not a
puppet board.
civilian review
No.
board. That was the mayor's reaction to my struggle to get a legitimate civilian review board. And what happened with that, if you want to know the history of it, that what happened was that we were struggling so hard to get a civilian review board. And we couldn't get the city to cooperate in any way whatsoever. So then I called together the NAACP and the community. We went before the Board of Aldermen and got the Board of Aldermen to pass a referendum to put CRB on the ballot so that the people can vote for a legitimate civilian review board. It went out and the people voted 4-1 that they wanted the civilian review board that I had drafted. And we got it. People voted for it. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about. So, and we want people like this who are reflecting of the struggle that we fought so hard for. Not people who came from East Haven, East, wherever, and have no sense of what that struggle that Joe just described.
or even the struggle that you're going through.
Or the struggle that
and
me and my family continue
the
to go
majority,
through.
the majority, excuse me, Miss Emma,
Yes.
the minority in New Haven are now brown people. So, and the majority of the people who have been victimized and imprisoned wrongly and jailed are brown and black people and red people. So this is the community that we're talking about. We're not talking about the community at large. We're talking about this community
And the
who
leadership.
voted to make sure that they had a voice.
And
So
the
are you
leadership should be reflected of that community.
So are you
not
saying
reflected of you and you and you and you.
So should
The leadership should be reflected of those people who are harmed the most, because you're gonna understand the most of what happened. And I'm seriously concerned that people who are standing on the outside, that their history and their culture may not lend itself to the struggle that my daughter and I and my son and and the father of my child is continuing to go through. Even today, as I stand here, why am I all crying? Because Ivor called me late at night talking about a press conference. But you know what? There's joy in it. There's so much joy in it, because one of the reason that I was suffering was because I felt like, God, Lord, I've been praying to you. I didn't come this far to turn back. But I want the people in my community who are reflective of the people who are suffering to come forward as a strong organization. And that's what we need. We need to fight. And that's what I'm calling. You want to know why I'm here? Because I'm calling out people. I'm calling out all of the people, the black, the brown, the red, the disenfranchised. Step forward.
I brought two witnesses right here. They both stepped up. That's the purpose of them both being here. They're both going to be on the board. I was talking with them earlier. They came. They wanted to see this because they want to step up to be on the board.
That's what I want.
And there's other people in the community, like Emma said, we need them to step up.
I need them.
And take these positions on the board. We need the board to reflect the community that has these encounters with the police.
And if you don't do that, you fail Malik. You fail me.
And we refuse to.
Fail me.
We refuse
if
to.
you don't do that, you hear me?
We refuse to.
You fail me.
We refuse to fail Malik.
Now, I want to make sure that you know that people that have been experiencing brutality and misconduct do have an ability to be objective.
That's right.
And I am one of those persons that have been objective.
So am I.
My son was in trouble, and I had to call him because he was having some serious concerns, so I had to call the ambulance to come and help him. 2 officers showed up. One showed up with his gun drawn, and the other officer told him to put it away. So I am on this board because I am objective. I have this kind of experience, and I know that immediately some police officers will look at a black male and say that they are dangerous. And that was not the case. My son was not dangerous. He just needed support.
And Ms. Emma, what would you like your role on the board to be going forward? In your best case scenario, how would you like to be with the board and work going forward?
I tell you, I have a lot of sensitivity for that board. And I bring an abundance of skills, professional skills and expertise. I could do more than take notes and make phone calls for the board. besides, I've never done that kind of work in my life. I know how to take notes because I graduated from law school, for crying out loud. So I only graduated from law school and I can't take notes. But I think it's a shame that we have people sitting around on the board, white people, asking me to take notes and make phone calls for them. Why do you try to marginalize us like that? We are capable people, and then you go looking all around the earth to find someone who looks like you, to lift them up and say, we want you to come in and
Do the same old thing that was done before, that failed.
Well, see, you don't want any white people. I mean, black
No,
and
we're not saying that.
wrong.
We're definitely not saying that we don't want any white people. What we're saying is that the board needs to be reflective of the community. The community, majority, minority, now are brown people. And we as a black people always stood in the gap when it comes down to police brutality and misconduct. The board needs to represent us. The leadership of the board needs to represent us. And I'm not saying that we don't need to have white people, because there are white people that are good people. There are white people that are understanding and that understands our experience. However, when it's leathered with white people, that's a problem.
And
So
when
do you
they
think
make
that-
the
you think the process should
decision,
be
it's a
changed?
problem.
I mean, the process now it's in the ordinance. I think the way it's supposed to. People are supposed to be.
It's not that the process needs to be changed. A lot of people in the community don't even know the Civilian Review Board exists. We haven't even there's no advertisement or anything letting it be known that this entity exists in New Haven. People can access. One of the ways how people even access and are able to submit reports, that's confusing. When I tell people and I give them, hey, go and file a civilian review complaint, they're like, where do we find the format? That's a confusing. People don't even know it exists because we haven't advertised. All our meetings have been on Zoom, and we've went to all type of police functions and a lot of functions. I've never seen the Civilian Review Board hold a function in the community where people can come to people can see who represents them on the Civilian Review Board. It's never been done.
But they will have constant meetings with the police department and the city of New Haven.
Constant.
You asked me what did I think my role should be.
What would you like, kind of best case scenario? What would you like to?
Well,
What would
the
you like
thing
role
is,
to
they
be?
asked me to present a proposal to them. I presented a proposal saying
who are
that
you?
I would like.
I tell him he's running for governor.
They wanted me to submit a proposal. I submitted a proposal. Everything that I submitted to them that I said that I wanted to do, that I had some insight into the board, into the Civilian Review Board, I should, since I drafted it. I asked them, I wrote the proposal for them. They don't need anything. We don't need that. I've gotten that at least 3 times. A response back from those people on the committee saying we don't need that. And then the last proposal I drafted to them, they took some of the things that I said that I was willing to do and instead in a proposal, and the next thing I know, it's a part of what they want an administrative person to do.
So some of that did get amended out.
Some of it, with all due respect, I don't believe you have a voice with this.
Actually, since Allie's here, I would love to hear her respond to some of the concerns raised.
Not a voice in this press conference, but a voice, no, comment with him, but not a voice when it comes down to the proposal that was written by Miss Emma that you are now responsible for doing.
And how is
Parts of it.
And wait a minute. The question for me is, how is she supposed to know about it? She was supposed to be a candidate looking for a job. Why does she know about my proposal that I wrote?
Exactly.
What is that about?
Well, I know some of the things you recommended is hiring other people. which is what was
But why
supposed to
does she know
happen.
about a private proposal that we're discussing amongst the board?
Well,
she's
but they should have talked
potentially
to me
being
about
hired.
it, not to her.
Well, it's always been public meetings, and these things have been discussed.
Right, and she's been sitting there for the last 4 years with the skills and the proposal to do the job.
And that proposal was never publicly presented to the meetings. Those proposals were emailed, and we reviewed them on an email. We never publicly reviewed those proposals
Or talked about it.
or talked about them.
We talked
And
about
just-
we just
we
raise
talked
it up
about
for a
them
vote.
in other meetings, but the concern is immediately before you take a vote, common knowledge is that you need to get clarity,
Exactly.
and there was no discussion. Now you need to speak with.
Well, I just love. I would love to hear if you have anything to say. It sounds like this press conference is largely about in response to your being hired as administrator. Is that were you hired as
I
administrator?
have been
last year?
hired.
You have been hired.
It's not largely that.
That is.
It's largely that the board and the leadership is not representative of the community that I prior talked about. That's it. And the direction of the board is not the way that the direction of the board was intended to be. So it's not entirely this
So
administrator.
when you talk
here.
about the leadership,
Oh, yeah,
obviously,
can
Anna.
I hear from Emily just to see? I mean, like,
Do you wanna
hey,
talk
what do you see
now?
as your responsibility on the board if you're on as administrator?
I was just here to hear what you guys had to say. This is important. Because if I'm going to work with you, if I'm going to work for you, like I want to know what you care about and what I can do to make it better.
You didn't ask us that when you first came on. You didn't ask us that, what we cared about. Now you're here to ask us what we cared about.
She got a job. There's
That's
so many
that's
people in our
not
community who need
no.
jobs.
And we got an email that said the same thing. We got a text message from Anne Marie that's saying the same thing that you're saying. So I understand that you're here representing Anne Marie and the board. However, that's really late. That question should have been asked when you were getting questioned about hiring. That should have been in your statement.
January 23rd meeting, I did ask, for you guys to tell me what it is that you were looking for, and there was a huge discussion about what the actual roles and responsibilities.
The roles and responsibilities,
Right.
not the guts of the board, not what needs to happen, what the purpose of the board is. I don't remember that coming out
I'm
of your
happy to hear it.
mouth.
Tell me
I don't
now.
hear
Tell
that.
me what you want
You know what?
because I serve you.
Absolutely appalling that you are here right now asking this question. Because when
She's
you
got the job.
No, she got the job, but you were hired for a position. And the only reason why you asked those questions, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you asked what do we expect from the board was only about your position. It wasn't about the guts of the board and the reason why people are on the board and the purpose that the board was being created for. Yes, you were on the board before. You saw what happened. It was not serving the community. We're not
It was
going to allow
not
that to
board.
happen anymore. And that's why we're here.
Well, she got a job because she actually answered her request for proposals. I mean, she was actually the only one.
That a lot of the community never heard that and that's one of the issues. We're not if these positions are available, they should be broadcasted all
In
throughout
the
the
community.
community.
Absolutely.
The community's not even. Who else in the community knows that these positions are available?
Allison, who were you
Can we talk
referred
about
by?
the tree that exists?
I'm a vendor on Bonfire because I hold another position with the city, and so I get notifications that pertain to my skill set.
So you hold another position at the city of New Haven?
Can we discuss the tree of information, how things work? Right, like the CRB itself, right? There's an appointment basis that's from the CMTs, right? Then you have to be interviewed with the administration, and then there has to be a final vote with the alders, correct? So now, when it comes out of other information, where's the real support from the administration that we're looking for? Because a lot of stuff that's happening is also because the type of support that members of the board need is not there on the current administration. There is somebody helping us to put counsel, but what we're saying is that help is not defined enough to address the issues that we're bringing up. That's been brought up. And it's to a point where how many times we have to bring up issues over the years. Because again, this board was created during COVID. A lot of us didn't ever have a chance as a board to even come together to have an icebreaker. We don't know other people that lived experiences with the police. Because there's some things I learned about leadership today that has a direct impact from East Haven Police Department. So we can't take away their stories as well, but we also have to understand as a community approach, the administration itself has failed to make sure that we are together and supported in the areas where we're saying, hey, we're needing help here, we're struggling here, and the administration is not taking a proactive response, but they're moving along with their agenda as if like we're not vital to what's going on in the process.
So how many people, do you know how many people are actually
We have
gentlemen
vacancies.
are interested?
We don't know.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you know, the process is complicated, right?
Yeah.
And you have to go through the
CMTs.
CRTs first, then it goes to the administration,
Well-
then it goes to the elders.
Well,
So-
whoever's willing and interested in being on the board, they need to fill out that application, and they need to be able to be heard by the Board of Alders. I understand the CMT, and I understand that the mayor's appointing. I'm not going to dismiss that. However, but if you're interested in serving your community on the CRB, go online, complete that application, and submit it.
And it's,
And the answer to the question is, a lot of people from the community that coincide with the answer that Ivan just gave. A lot of people from the community don't even know the CRB exists. They don't even know that we're looking for new board members. Like, this is not public information that's out there. Like, I'm in the streets on a regular basis. I'm telling people about the Civilian Review Board. They don't even know it exists. They don't even know. And then when I do tell them that it do exist and they need to sign up, they're like, I don't know where to find the application at. I don't know how to go about doing it. There's no information out there that could funnel people through how to get on the Civilian Review Board. That's why we don't know an accurate number of how many people are being looked at or being potentially looked at to be on the Civilian Review Board. And I'm concerned with who those people are because this is not public information. It's not public. It's like almost to the point where they're making it like a secret society of who gets on the board. And it should not be. It can't be. This is a board that should be representative of the community. So the community should know this board exists, and they should know that the members need to represent the community. It should be public knowledge everywhere. It should be easily accessible to get on this board.
To the
I want to add to this too. So, for instance, our strategy that we had in the beginning was we have to build up the financial backing we need to do our CRB because we have an annual fund that comes in. So we didn't do much spending in the very beginning of this inception. So we have money we could spend. And throughout the multiple sessions, we have brought up, all right, now it's time for us to allocate this. It's time to allocate that. It's time to spend this, time to spend it. Because we know what the weaknesses are. We know what our community need from us. But at the end of the day, there's not their true support. JL just lists some things here. If it's recorded properly, JL lists some things that we're saying we need support in from the administration to make this happen. But it seems though the support we're getting is not prioritizing that. And these are the pockets that is causing, it's not a board that's fractured, not at all. It's that there's frustration that needs to be addressed. But we've been talking about it according to what we're supposed to be doing in our meetings, but it's not going anywhere. It's been about four years now.
About 4 years.
So you have to understand, this is not something that's just one meeting we addressed it. We're talking repeating sessions. How do we move this forward? We're not getting that support.
At least from the spring, there's been discussions about hiring people. So, it's, I guess it's a year at this point now, last spring.
And that's a shame. And cases are built up.
We started
Constantly
that
building up.
conversation, 2020.
We have a backlog. Now, if we had already hired Ms. Emma Jones and we had an administrator, why those cases would not be on a backup, we would be on an even flow. We would then be talking about investigator, we'd be talking about consultant, we'd be talking about moving the board forward with what needs to happen in order to make sure we serve these people. So we cannot and we will not, and I'm going to close this by saying that we will not continue to go on this way. And that's why we're here today.
So I thought they took care of the backlog a year ago.
We have a lot of archives and backlogs that need to be taken place. Allison will tell you that. She's now the administrator responsible for bringing up all of the backlog in the archives.
Well, those are the minutes. I mean, there's 20.
Those are minutes. Yeah, those are minutes. So there's several things. There's a lot of layers that need to be addressed.
So then are there cases that were never discussed by the board?
There are plenty of cases that were never discussed by the board.
It's an overwhelming process.
However, Allison can speak to it. You've been in the position long enough to know at least what the backlog is and what the archives are. So would you please share that with
During the years when they didn't have a CRB, there were cases that were brought and complaints that were brought that weren't investigated. And those should be reviewed.
These are cases before this board.
Before the board. It has nothing to
And
do with
after the
you.
last election.
That's
And see,
okay.
and that's not fair
Yeah,
You
either.
see? Okay.
That's crazy.
And see, now that's not fair. That's not fair that this is there's
Brought
cases
over to
that
us.
It's been dumped
that
over.
it's been
And
right.
dumped on
That's not
us,
fair.
Like it's
The-
our responsibility
work through it.
to go back
So-
and clean up backlogs. That's not right.
Yeah, but it's not fair to the community who's submitted these complaints either. That's not. We need to move forward. We need to move forward as a board and be stronger and be better and be representative of the community that we are supposed to
Right. So
serve.
since
And
this
also-
board got together, there's a backlog still. Right? I mean, I didn't know anything about it.
There are cases that are still being investigated that haven't appeared before the board, and then there's also the cases that came up before this board started with SAT.
And there's also certain recommendations that Emma submitted on certain cases that's just been totally ignored. She submitted recommendations on cases that
How many
we haven't
cases?
talked about ever.
There are personal cases that I didn't want to talk about, but Daryl is exactly right. Committee persons who requested that I contact people, and I did, and had a conversation with them submit recommendation, and nothing happened. As a matter of fact, it became business as usual. And so
I mean, was there an official complaint made to the IA or to the board? Or to the
it was a
board?
complaint that was made to the board, and then there was a committee because the CRB has established a committee system, which I recommended to them that I wanted to work with them, and this is inconsistent with your question you raised. What would you like to do? And one of the things I said to them is that this committee system is ineffective. First of all, if you're working in a committee and it has only 4 members of the board on the committee, and you're looking at and making decisions about cases, then the rest of the members are isolated from what is happening with the cases. And so I thought this is the reason that we need to have an investigator to investigate the case. And then every person on the board should look at all of the cases together so that they can all have the exact same information, and then they can make a collective decision about what it is that should happen with these cases.
Well, doesn't it amount to the same thing? I mean, these 4 people.
No, it
look-
doesn't.
They look into it and they come back to the board, and then the board has to vote.
Yeah, with their own opinion and their own assessment, and then the board doesn't have the full picture of what happened. You have what was recommended to you or what is said to you by those 4 people.
So you would
No,
trust
it's
an
not the same.
investigator more than you would trust a subcommittee.
The subcommittee and the
This
board members.
subcommittee? Yes.
The board members are to review these cases. An investigator is skilled in determining the rights and wrongs of what happened in the incident. And yes, we do need an investigator.
So again, it comes back to, do you want a full-time investigator like they have in Hartford, or do you want it for just certain cases?
I can't answer that question. I'm just one board member.
See, that was one of the things that I had recommended to them, and you're right, we probably shouldn't be discussing it here, but that was
No.
one of the things I recommended to them, that I helped them to find an investigator, that, they get some training that helped them figure out by me and the investigator It helped them figure out how to make an informed decision about the information that they collect. That was only one of the things that I had in the proposal. And consistent with what Joe said, one of the things I said is that I think it's important that someone go out, have a connection, a relationship with the community, at least periodically during the process of what's happening, keep the community informed. Not necessarily someone who is sitting there with the police, and not necessarily, I thought the person they were going to hire was going to be a secretary, and I was surprised that they changed it to an administrator.
Because they included all of the things that you had in your proposal.
Exactly. They made their own, that's exactly right. And I was going to help them with that. I wanted to help them and help them work through some of the processes that I thought might be difficult, especially for people who had absolutely no experience in a civilian review board and how civilian review board are supposed to work. I've traveled all over the country, trying to educate myself about civilian review board. Why couldn't they listen to some of the things that I had to say, rather than listening to someone or hiring someone with some of the specifics of my proposal who sat on a non-functioning civilian review board? Because the mayor thing went under because they had no authority to do anything but sit around looking at each other. That's a very successful civilian review board, right?
The last question.
Right, okay. So this board, which you helped put together, I mean, it doesn't, they don't
The
have...
board?
they
I
don't-
don't have put the board together.
You put the ordinance together that defines the board.
What? Oh,
right?
yeah, yes.
So it doesn't give it a whole lot of power. I mean, it just...
It has a power.
It has power,
It's
so it
how
can't
you use the power that you have.
It can make recommendations, but it can't oversee or change.
Oh, that's not true. It can do its own recommendation,
Right.
just like the chief of police can.
It can, but I mean, who has the ultimate say? Isn't it still the police chief?
No, it's not the police chief, because there's also another lever. That's the Board of Police Commission.
And it's the power of the people.
And the people.
It's the
that's
people's
right.
voice. It's a civilian review board.
So no,
It's the power of the people.
And
Do
see,
you have the power
these
to overrule the police chief? I mean,
We have
or
the
board-
power.
or the board
to-
of police commissioners.
We have the power to fight, and we have the voice
That's
to
right.
fight.
That's
And
right.
if the moral right sees, and wait, that's going to get political, and I'm
That's
not
okay.
political here today. Morally speaking, if the police's voice is not the voice that represents the community has the power. And this is what we're saying right now. And this is how the board is being run. By, let me call the city, let me call the police department. Don't reach out to the community.
never consulted with
We
them.
are the community, and we are the Civilian Review Board.
And that's the way that I would like to see. We struggled for years, 20-something years, to get this CRB to the point where the people would have that voice that you're speaking of. And the document is there, but the leadership is definitely not there. It is going in the wrong direction. And I think that the people who have the best interests of the community at heart are the people who need to, at this point, step up and say, we are not going to allow for this to happen. Not on my watch.
Okay. Let me know if there are cases specifically that you think were mishandled. You know, should have been overruled.
We'll reach out. We'll reach out to you.
And can we also talk about like preventative measures?
Yeah.
Right. Like at the end of the day, the CRV is not to also be always in response to trauma. We also have the ability to prevent
That's
things
right.
happening in the future. But the issue is, if you don't have like the support from the administration of respecting folks with diverse thoughts, it's not about color, it's also diverse thought and background. Then you will be able to see why things are not working in the machine. Right? We lost some good members who are actually active. But the reason being is because when you see that there's parts of the machine that is not functioning properly, how much can you contribute on a volunteer basis when you have a family you're committed to? So we also have to understand that we have an acting chair because there was opportunity for that to be presented. We needed leadership, but there's vacancies that are not being handled at the moment because there's still a disconnect with the administration. There's also moments where, you know, as volunteer basis, we still have to get the support we need. So in this moment, in this session, there has been some objectives that have been very clear. And if the context is written precisely, there shouldn't be much of a debate moving forward.
Is it too much to ask the board members to personally go down, look at the IA, look at the videos? I mean, is that too much?
You're missing the point of what
Yeah,
I
you're
just
missing
said.
It depends on
You're
the
mi-
person.
you're
Like for
missing-
me, I'm comfortable.
You're
But for
missing
JL,
the
he's not.
point. I got shot by the police. I was almost murdered by the police. It's people that we want on the board that have past histories with the police where the police brutalized them. I mean, this is a board member. This is a potential board member right now. His story of how he got brutalized by the police is crazy. This is a potential board member right here. If he told you his story of how his interactions with the police happened, it would amaze you. You know, and then you're telling us to go into this room, locked door. When I walk by the police station, I shake. When a cop get behind me, I shake. And that's not because I'm doing anything wrong. That's just because of the past trauma that I've experienced with interactions with the police. This is a reality of a whole community of people that experience these interactions. And this is and we have the leadership on the board that's not connected to the reality of people in the community. Then you'll ask questions like, is it too much to ask for us to go down to the police station and review? This is the reality that we live with. That's why it's hard for us to go into the police station and review these complaints.
So,
JL, can I add to that also? I have a son who has never been arrested by the police. And when he worked for U.S. Surgical, every day he would get stopped on his way to work. And one day, because he was the manager of his department, one day the head of because his department at that time was the most important part, was producing more than any of the other departments. So the head of the U.S. Surgical at that time, when they came in, they flew the airplane, put it on the department that was the most productive, which was his department. And they asked him, why is it that he come late sometimes? And he said, because I get stopped every single day. And he said, I have a solution for you. I'm going to give you an ID that you put on your dashboard and put your license there also. And when you stop, you know how awful that is. And to this day, he is still terrified when he gets stopped by the police. So it's people who have been traumatized, but it's a trauma when those lights go on and you live in an environment where you know the culture is that black, brown, and red people get stopped and brutalized, and when you get out without going to jail, without being murdered, without getting arrested, that you are a very lucky soul. You hear me? So that son is a very lucky kid. But he is not exempt from being traumatized. That hurts when all the time, just because you are a black man and American, and it happened to other people too, but more specifically to black men.
But can I say something really quick? Just to connect with what you were saying, Ms. Emma, and what JL and people have been saying. that is the importance of the Civilian Review Board, and for us community members to step up and step in and do the work, because our communities are being over-policed and criminalized just for being who we are.
That's right.
And so we need to recognize that. And for people who are going to be on the Civilian Review Board who are in leadership that don't understand that connection about the trauma and the impact that it is when police show up and you're not even doing anything, or even if you are doing something is traumatic is going to happen to you. And so with that, there needs to be someone within our communities who represents those experiences and know those harms. If you don't understand that, then you're not going to understand the importance of the work of the Civilian Review Board, and then it becomes status quo of people just stepping in and trying to be a part of something that they think is
It's
the
cute.
thing.
This is fun. I'm learning something. Oh, this is unusual.
And this is what I want to add to JL, right? What JL experienced and several others who may feel very similar to how you feel, the police department is a symbol of, it's just traumatic for me. JL has spoken on this on record, and there were solutions out of that, but the question is, why is it in the machine and it's stuck there? This is the support, again, that we're asking the current administration, what's up with the solution here?
I mean, why hasn't it been set up in a different
Right.
different
Why
office?
is it in
different
motion?
office?
It's not that we're giving complaints and issues. We're also giving solutions. We have a team of folks who are also providing the solutions. But with the solutions, the administration is too comfortable with taking those solutions to benefit their agenda. That should not be the case.
Right.
We need to stop that.
Right.
And this is why folks don't want to participate in democracy as
Right.
much.
And there's a high concern when civilians provide their complaints, and then it's like not
Nothing
founded.
happens.
It's not founded. Or we want to look at the complaint and we want to review it, and we contact them. We know that the culture of our community is like, okay, the police, I'm just going to let it go. I know that, the police are going to come after me. I know that this is not going to happen right. One time, Miss Emma was calling the person because she knows that, actually I know, if I put in a complaint and then the police said it was unfounded, and someone from the Civilian Review Board or any other board is going to call me and tell me they want to investigate the case, I don't know whether they're going to be doing the right thing or not. So yeah, keep calling me, keep reaching out to me, and let me know that you have my back. But that was dismissed as inappropriate by the board. So
Don't keep calling.
don't
So I
keep
couldn't
calling
do
the
anything right. If I call people consistently, they didn't like that. Oh, she's calling you. Why are you calling people so many times? Then if I don't call, she's not doing the work. She wants.
I think most of the
And
times,
you know something? Let me tell you something. Let's not make excuses here. I'm going to be straight out, and this is the last comment I'm going to make. Because I have gone through this whole process after watching the Civilian Review Board. I'm a person who stands firmly for righteousness and justice. If the situation were reversed, and all of these white people are here, and they came up with a solution for the problems that they were facing, I would never, ever in a billion years to be so presumptuous as to step in and say, I'm the best leader for this, I'm gonna take charge, and I'm gonna crucify that person who struggled to get this thing going. I would never do that.
That's the reality of what we're doing.
That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. Okay? If it's wrong for me to do it to you, it's wrong for you to do it to me. If it's wrong for me to do it to your community, it's wrong for your community to do it to me. And we've been suffering this for many, many years. And that's why Emma Jones, other than a murder for some, set up the Civilian not only a member of it, and the other people who lost their lives and who went to jail, and we were in the best position. The people who had suffered and who continue to suffer, that we were in the best position to represent that interest. Why can't you let us do this? Why don't you stop criticizing us and putting us down and trying to find a fault in our eye? None of us are perfect. Neither are you. Why don't you let us alone and let us try to do what we know we can do if you stop bothering us and sticking knives in our back?
I think you said one of the things you wanted to be hired for is to be a trainer. Is that correct?
In
Train the
Hartford?
board? Train, no.
No,
to
hired
train-
for.
Hired for to be a trainer here to train the board on how to investigate.
Well, no, not necessarily how to investigate. There were a number of things that I thought was really critical important. For example, I think it's very difficult for the board, for example, to go through every single piece of the charter and the history of the legislation and what that legislation is. And you don't tell me that you could just step in and you're so bright that you can take 20-some years of struggle putting a document together, and you're so bright you can just come in, you know everything about it. So I just thought on a Saturday at one point that as a consultant I could come in and sit with the board and walk them through the legislation. We haven't done that, and I don't think this woman is in a position to do that. I don't think someone and who's the best person to do that than the person who drafted it?
I believe what you're speaking to is at the last meeting, it was brought up that we go through a training to learn how to investigate.
That was one of the things. Right?
Yeah, that was one of the things that was brought up. So that was not one of the things that was talking about. So if that answers
Yeah,
your
because
question
you
too.
just said when you were talking about training, you said you could do it.
There's
Well,
a lot of
that-
training I can't do. And if you look at the proposal that I submitted, I bet no one has seen that in public or in the media, the proposal that I submitted to the board. Why don't you ask the leadership of the board to let you see the proposal that I submitted? And you can tell for yourself, you know, I even went through the trouble of doing a brief little layout analysis of some of the content of the legislation and inserted it into the proposal that I drafted to make it even more clear to the leadership. What did I get back?
Reason why we're here
They
right
took
now.
one or two, exactly. The reason that I guess I would call this press conference now. But I tell you what I did get, a lot of, I'm gonna call you when
The RFP
when
goes
the
out.
RFP go out. It never went out. I never got a call. Well, you sure hired an administrator real fast, and you sure fought hard for that. And
That's because
please
she knew the
believe
process.
me,
Yeah, she knew the process.
No one else knew the process.
She said,
One applicant. One applicant.
We can't
I
afford
mean,
it.
but I know there's been discussions that they did prioritize the administration.
They did what the application process. That's what we're talking about.
prioritizing should be the effective way of getting the CRB off of the ground successfully. And that's what I wanted to do with them. Help the CRB to get success. And I don't want a permanent job with the CRB. No, I do not. But I did want the opportunity to be able to work with that board and to be right there with them, not fighting with them, but I wanted us to be able to sit down and have discussions and look at creative ways that we can move forward, making the CRB the most successful CRB in the country. And I think that the way that the legislation is drafted give us enough to do that. But we do need the commitment from and the right kind of leadership to make sure that it happens. That people are working with each other, not these divisions and working against each other.
What would you like to be paid? Actually,
What kind of
I
question?
don't think that
That's an
they-
inappropriate question.
Did you propose? I mean, you could have proposed or together.
No, I didn't. And you know what? Let me tell you something. I worked on this for 20 some years. Guess what? My daughter moved into the house with me. I'm a lawyer. I could have had an incredible legal career. You understand? So money for me was not the issue. And I think that people make money the issue because they keep saying, oh, well, didn't you get so-and-so and so-and-so to do something with the CRB? Did you ask her how much she would like to get paid to work for the CRB? Ask her.
I mean, I've seen the documents.
Oh, you didn't see a proposal for me with a document that said how much?
I think I did. I think you did have. Did you say 50,000?
No, I did. No, I never laid a penny out because I think that my service is invaluable. I think what I have done is invaluable, and if I help the CRB to become necessary, that's invaluable. It doesn't have a price tag. So with or without money,
She wrote that in her proposal too. Word for word what she's saying right now. That's what she wrote in her proposal too. Because they asked that question.
With or without money?
They asked exactly, she answered exactly what she said. She said, now,
because we're talking about the lives and the mental health and the well-being of a community, and you can't buy that. You can't pay for it.
So I've got to run. Okay. Appreciate each and every one of my brothers.
Ira has to get back
Came
too.
together.
But if you guys have other questions, you can continue to ask questions because she has to get back to work.
Thank you for inviting us.
Putting the application, and always the best, J1. Thank you for coming, but this is not a political event.
No, I'm here to listen.
Okay, or other political candidates would have been here too.
No, I
Okay.
Thanks, Ira. Good to see you.
Thank you for talking with us, Miss Heather.
Yeah, I know you gotta go. Go.
I was just thinking, interestingly enough, that one of the questions wasn't about the suffering and the pain that people are experiencing. It was
So can I brought it up.
no, I know.
Oh,
They
yeah.
I'm so happy to see you. I know. It's so good to see you. I know you didn't expect to see me.
No, I didn't know. I didn't know what to expect. I was walking.
All right, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, please call me.
I will. And thank you for doing this. God, you're a blessing from heaven.